Hi, Compassion Ambassadors. Thank you so much for tuning in and for opening your hearts to understanding more about the realities, the complexities, and even the controversies about living with Lyme disease and treating Lyme disease. This is my new friend, Karen, and she's been introduced to me by my friend Jason and my network of love. Karen has had Lyme disease for 40 plus years, but for 30 something years didn't even know what was going on. So since this past week has been really hard for me. I've spent the last 5 days or so really dragging. Last Wednesday, I had a really amazing high, positive day, talked to a bunch of people, a lot of really positive things happening in my network of love. Is all really good. And then my brain just like went to mush. Karen even saw me because she happened to live on the street I was house sitting on afterwards. And she was like, okay, I'll just talk to you later. Because I couldn't. And then I spent the last 5 days, doing everything I could to pull out of what I would call a neurological fatigue. But it's just so heavy and so depressive. So I thought this is the perfect time to talk with you, Karen, because when we've chatted before, what you really spoke to was you have a really deep knowledge and understanding of what's happening when we have those sort of drags on our system, which seem to be so weird because we can appear so normal to other people. But literally when it's happening, it's so scary. Can you tell us a little bit about your Lyme journey, like how your story, and then go a little bit deeper into your experience and understanding of the neurological fatigue, or something we call brain fog.
Okay. So I got sick when I was 20. I'm 65 now, so it's been 45 years. And for 39 years, it went undiagnosed. I got the term fibromyalgia, so that described the pain, but that term actually is not diagnostic. It doesn't actually say what gives you fibromyalgia. It just says, okay, you have pain all over your body. Most fibromyalgia people are probably Lyme disease inflicted. So it took me down probably for the first year. I quit school, I quit work, and was really depressed. And what the heck is going on for me? It really pulled the rug out from under me at a really young age. At that point, it was about another 3 years before I ended up in California. So California really started calling to me because it was a mecca of holistic health. I knew that much, that that it must be some body-mind thing. Well, so I moved to California, and I became a massage therapist. I became a dancer. So I was doing things that were compensating for what was going on inside of me and taking care of myself in a really fantastic way that allowed me to survive. And at least for 30 years, I was going to practitioners all over the place. Chiropractors were essential. One of the things that would happen is muscle spasms would twist my vertebra out of place, especially up here in the neck. It turns out one of the infections was in my head.
Yep.
Right, occipital, yeah. So, it was really, I just had to, and I wasn't making that much money, but I had to spend money to survive, to keep my body functioning. So now, once I found out it was Lyme, my whole life made sense, and it was overwhelming and depressing and brilliant insight because it explained everything that had been happening. So, ask again, because there's so many things that I could talk about.
We were just talking about how do you deal with it with your friends, because people, well-meaning friends, especially in our spiritual communities, they really love to help us sort of boost to the positive, and they, say how you're just choosing your thoughts, you're just choosing
right
heavy negative thought or feeling, and that you're just being negative, so you just need to be positive. And
right.
I recommend, Joe Dispenza and all of these sort of positive thought things, which are all great. Abraham, I love all of them.
It's all good for sure.
And people,
but it doesn't cure it.
Right.
It does not cure it, because that whole time that I didn't know what this was, I applied that 30 years, and I would pray day in, day out and do these heroic spiritual efforts to, or healing my things with my mother and deep emotional healing. I did so much work on myself, and nothing got, it got worse is what happened. The older you get, I hit menopause, and that can be hard for women. And so that was, it, it was all I could do to keep hope alive at that point. And I did. And I kept trying, and I kept looking, and I kept looking. And sure enough, finally went to a practitioner, and there it was. You know, I got the die-off response, and I'm, oh my God, this is Lyme disease.
Right.
So,
so what about how you mentioned, when I asked you how you deal with it with your friends, you said because of those sorts of comments and because there's so little understanding about what we really go through.
Yeah, because this is not a body-mind illness. Right. I mean, yes, trauma may be a part of it, but these bugs they're stealth bugs. They're highly intelligent. We are not informed about it. Doctors are not educated about it. The state of Lyme in America it's politically, medically, financially, physically, a train wreck.
Yeah.
There's, now finally there's some resources. There's holistic resources that didn't used to be available. But oh my God, it's the levels of complexity and difficulty of just trying to treat yourself are unlike any other illness in that.
I mean, it's completely broken me. Like this.
Well, and because the CDC kind of buried it in the 80s, and our testing is completely inadequate, and they've supported this one of the tests is known to give false negatives. In other words, you have Lyme disease, and it doesn't tell you you do. Yep. So it's really terrible what you get thrown into because of, like I say, it's political, it's medical, there's controversy, doctors don't understand it, so therefore they think it's a joke. And so it's, for instance, I have two brothers that I love. When I started getting really sick and I was begging for some financial support, it was 3 years into treatment. It had cost me $10,000 a year to treat, and that's cheap. I was doing holistic stuff. I bought machines, etc. They just lit into me and judged everything about my life. And one of them believed the crap on the internet about Lyme. Chronic Lyme doesn't exist, and it's just blah blah blah. It's really madness what's out there. And so one of them just walked out. So you don't have Lyme disease. You just have issues with your father.
Yep. You don't.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was brutal.
You're just having financial issues, and you're trying to get money.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm just lazy. Right. Yeah. And I've wasted my whole life. Why didn't you just get a job? And why didn't you work in the corporate world? Whatever.
Right.
All their projections, and there was no, like you said, this is a completely invisible disease, especially those of us that have risen to the occasion. Yeah. Because of all that positive thinking and spirituality, I radiate, and people, and I move, and I'm really active, and so people, it's not obvious like most of the other illnesses. It's a little obvious when we have our bad days, but that can be discounted. So
and the really bad days, you just go away. No one even realizes what you've been.
It's the only time I have not had energy to interact with other people. Yeah, because I'm a real social person, and being social would be exhausting, and that was really, really different. There's so many things I couldn't do, so many things I couldn't eat. It's hard to be in relationship because it demands your attention. I would have to go detoxify. I would have to go swimming or get into the sauna at certain points. We had plans. I'm sorry, I can't go out tonight. I have to go to the hot tub. It just sounds like an excuse, but it's just so, the internal imperative is so strong with this because Lyme is producing neurotoxins. So these toxins assault your nervous system. It's like static constantly in your system. That's one of the best metaphors I have, is trying to do anything through static. It makes it, once I started treating, I got 4 times worse. My pain was worse. My brain fog was worse. And now it's been 6 years. And it's 6 years of this constant toxic drainage that you have to keep dealing with. You don't get better until the whole thing lifts. So it, like I say, there's no disease that's like this. So it's really difficult for people to understand. Aren't you better yet? Aren't you better? You've been treating it for 6 years. Well, yes, I have less of a bug load, but how it feels in my body is pretty much the same as it was, say, 3 years ago. So, and it's different and it's deeper in certain places. I feel like there was a shrinky dink inside of my body as I've been treating, and certain things are getting hard, certain ligaments are getting hard, and the real deep core fascia is shrinking, so I have to keep stretching, and it's just really strange, what's to say nothing of everything that was happening in my organs. And you have Bartonella as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So Bartonella is the worst co-infection, and the combination, those of us with long-time Bart and Lyme, it's the hardest thing to get over. So I'm really close. I'm at least 80% better, but the symptoms aren't really going to lift. I'm not going to be better until the whole thing is, till the populations have really receded. Then I will be treating quarterly. And like I say, I bought machines. Thank God for that, because I'll use them for the rest of my life. It's recommended that you treat Lyme quarterly because the cyst form, it recedes and it can come back out. And so that's my plan.
Sometimes I'm like, I think that the Lyme are the imaginal cells.
Because
I feel like the Lyme must be the imaginal cells, like the imaginal cells that turn the caterpillar to goo, that you then become the butterfly, because it demands your attention, not on one level, on every level of being.
Yeah.
And I had
self-care.
Yeah, I had a last to talk
buckets
about.
Yeah,
it's all about
supplements and right. All the food has to be fresh and organic, and and
it's constant. I mean, it is literally like, I feel like my body is a screaming baby, like the most colicky, demanding, burdensome baby you can ever imagine.
I can laugh. I can laugh because I know what you've been through.
Yeah, I know. It's like, we have to have a sense of humor, but it's like, and I think that a lot of us who have this, we do radiate. And so that's probably why people are not able to see it, because the body, I want to just sort of come full circle with the whole, this is not a body mind disease.
No.
Like, I feel like the big I, is the healthiest I've ever been, because of the demand of this disease. Like, it is like my relationship with God and self and intelligence and nature is
had to life force.
Yeah, life force. It is unnegotiable. It is absolutely imperative. It is like survival of your life imperative. So other people don't have that. They think those things are a luxury.
Right. Well, because the option or the alternative, if you have Lyme, is you get really depressed and really cynical, and you're a victim.
Yep.
You're a victim of the whole thing. You're angry, you're resentful. It's terrible. And that's the whole, Lyme doesn't kill you. That's the challenge about Lyme disease. It doesn't kill you, but it can sure make you want to die.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it kills you while you're alive. It makes you walking dead, because it takes your life.
Yeah.
Because it's so all consuming that it actually consumes any energy that I have. I'm just trying to
time and
goddamn line. I'm like, I have other things to do.
Yeah.
So time, the energy, and then the way that the fear comes in, and when the brain fog comes, it's so depressive, and it becomes so it's like you're just in this cave of fear of not being able to keep up with the world, not being able to observe yourself. Every thought is overwhelming. Any phone call is overwhelming. A conversation is overwhelming. and then that makes you even more scared, because then you're like, whoa, I'm already slow and now I have to be slower, and then now exactly how am I going to survive life? And
Yeah.
it is intense. But what I love about what you said is that, thank God for our tools. We radiate because of our commitment to our tools and our spirituality and our self-work. And that's why we look healthy. Our eyes, our being is healthy. But what we're dealing with is very physical. And so when we start to go into those brain fogs, I think what I'm learning and becoming more and more of is I'm becoming more and more the witness of, oh, I know this, that's not me, that's the disease.
Yeah.
Say a little bit about the way that the microbes
Yeah.
affect our emotional state.
Yeah. And things like, for me, where I am, God is, or to call in the comforter and the divine love to be there for me as I'm by myself and suffering, and because you don't have energy to go out.
Yes.
I had to call that so deeply over and over, so that it has strengthened me. It's definitely been my spiritual path. It's strengthened me and deepened me and created, or I have created the pathway to love, the comforter to compensate for the pain.
Wow, you just described exactly the practices that I've started sharing, called Nourish practices, and and the Path of the Light, which is several different sort of modules of the practices that I've been using to reconnect myself to love. Exactly what you just explained is exactly where those have been birthed in this last year, from the deepest, darkest, most desperate pain.
Yeah.
Because you are alone, and
Yes,
it is scary. And there's a lot of times when even just dealing with getting something to eat, especially because what you have to eat is like all of these ridiculously specific foods that have to be fresh, that have to, just dealing with the shopping and the cooking in itself is a whole job.
Yeah.
And when you're alone and then there's no food, and then the whole thing just spirals. But say something, you were mentioning to me about how Bartonella is sort of characteristic of, it has that depressive energy to the toxin. Is it because of the neurotoxins, the depression, the heavy?
Well, I don't know exactly why chemically, but I've heard it referred to by several people, including Katina Makris, who wrote the book Out of the Woods. I worked with her for a while, and she had also had Bartonella. See, some people, she is an example of somebody who just got laid out. She couldn't get out of her bed. And so the gift of that is she found out sooner than I did what it was, because she was just up against the wall. But still, it's common that people go to 10 doctors before they get diagnosed, minimum.
Yeah.
I probably went to 50, practitioners. The sad thing is that holistic practitioners know even less about Lyme disease. And as I'm better, I am definitely going to start presenting to acupuncture clinics and massage schools and chiropractors and whoever will hear, because it's something that's where I was for 35 years, desperately trying to find an answer, and not one of them recognized the symptoms. Not one of them.
Wow. Whew, wow. Well, I know that we could go on, and I'm sure that we'll chat again, but I really, really appreciate this time with you. And I feel like using our voices to raise awareness and to open people's hearts to compassion, and it is the most important thing that we can be doing. I feel so helpless in so many ways. But talking with you and with the other people that I'm talking to who share this journey and who know this journey really feels it's fulfilling, and it feels like it's connecting all of us to each other through a network of love. So
it's totally changed my life. I have definitely transformed myself with this disease as a motivator, and I take credit for that because it was really hard work, but that is ultimately the spiritual gift that comes out of it. But I just want to say one word to our friends. If there's something you want to do, just give us a hug, or come on over and have tea with us or something. Spiritual platitudes don't go very far, because we're working so hard on so many levels that you don't see. So cut us some slack for having a bad day and just give us a hug, and let us let us carry on.
Yeah, because sometimes it's like because the fact that it's actually a biochemical thing that's happening in the brain, and also when the brain doesn't have enough energy and it's inflamed, then
Yep.
depression and fear and
It
cycle
weakens the muscles.
weaken
Yeah,
everything. And
everything.
I really had that yesterday, and it's like it just sometimes you just need to vent and freak out about
Yes.
how scary this is
And
because
be held.
and be held.
Yeah.
And for someone to be like, whoa, I really, really get it. Like, I get you. I get that. I can't even imagine how scary this is.
Yes.
You know, the whole,
That's the truth.
if you
That's
really
helpful.
wanted to, you could push harder, you know, just think positive. I believe in you. It's like, it's all well meaning, but it is so hurtful.
It's not true with Lyme disease.
Yeah, it's just
I had so many spiritual healings, and unfortunately, none of them picked up what it was. And all that great, it would help me for a day, but it just didn't add up because there was this incredible drain and microbes attacking me on the inside that was affecting so many systems.
yeah. I
So
think that
it's
that's the point is that we constantly have to drain the toxins and it
detox.
keeps coming back. And that's the hard part. It's like, and that's why all the treatments, you know, I got a treatment today for my brain with the Equiscope, and I'm like, oh my God, I can think again. I went to the grocery store, and then I called you, and then I have this list of a gazillion things that I need to get done. Plus I'm trying to absorb all this information and trying to get into the front of the right doctor. And then I'm trying to raise money,
Yeah.
and, you know, and then I'm also on a clock. I don't know how long this is going to last until the next, you know, bombardment of the toxins when I'm like crawling on the floor and just trying to, you know, make it, just
Yeah.
trying. And that's that's when I go into the cycle of self-care, soul sister time, walks on the beach. So I'm just kind of like trying to figure out, it's almost like a moon cycle, you know, we just
Yeah.
need to figure out the cycles and the tools and educate people because everyone's well-meaning and so the more we share our truth, hopefully the more compassion grows, and hugs, I think, are the best medicine. Hugs, watch
Yeah.
TV.
Well, you know, because this disease attacks the nervous system,
Mhm.
touch is one of the most powerful things we can get.
That's,
That's why I dance
yeah.
and contact improv, that kind of sensitive, aware touch is just so healing. It resets my nervous system.
Absolutely. Me
Yeah.
too. And because there's actually, Mona and I talked about this, there's an entrainment that happens when your nervous system feels a healthy nervous system, it can settle and entrain. So even sitting back to back with your friends so that your spine on their spine, if they're having an episode, the hugs, um,
Hmm.
you know, helping make sure that they have the food that they need.
Or just being spooned. You can do that. Just lay on that bed and spoon with somebody else. It's so healing.
Or holding the neck, especially holding the neck at
Yes.
the occipital ridge, because that's where a lot of the pain and tension happens. And so
Yes.
holding that is just I've had friends do that where I'm just like, please, please, please hold my head. And when they do, I feel the whole nervous system go like, okay, I'm okay. And it goes into the back body, which then gives me the beginning of the hope of being released from the grips. Because once
Hmm.
it starts going, you're just so, anyways, there's so much to share, but thank you so much, everyone, for
We'll
tuning
do this
in.
again.
Thank you, Karen. We'll do it again, and I'm looking forward to giving you a big hug soon. And I can't wait for you to come and nourish with us.
Yeah. Amen.
You got
Okay,
it.
honey. Thanks. Bye.